My dad called an emergency family meeting and said, 2 people in this room have a crush on the same man. The second those words left his mouth, the entire room went silent. Not normal silence. The kind of silence that makes you wonder if somebody is about to announce a divorce, a pregnancy, or a crime. My dad stood in front of the fireplace with his arms crossed like he was the CEO of a company about to fire half the staff. My mom sat beside him looking deeply uncomfortable. My older sister kept checking her phone. My younger brother looked annoyed that he'd driven 2 hours for whatever this was. Even my grandmother had stopped eating cookies. Dad, I said carefully, what exactly is happening? You'll find out soon enough, he replied. That answer only made everyone more nervous. The emergency meeting had come out of nowhere. Earlier that morning, Dad had sent a text to every family member. Be here at 3 p.m. Important family matter. No excuses. When my father used all capital letters, people listened. The last time he'd done that was when my grandfather had been rushed to the hospital. So naturally, everyone assumed something terrible had happened. My sister spent the entire drive preparing herself for bad news. My brother thought Dad was sick. I honestly wondered if my parents were getting divorced. Nobody expected this. 2 people in this room have a crush on the same man, Dad repeated. Grandma gasped dramatically. Frank, are you serious? Completely serious. Mom immediately covered her face. Oh no. Dad pointed toward her. She is one of them. My sister nearly fell off the couch. Mom? Frank, Mom warned. No, they deserve the truth. The truth about what? My brother asked. Dad pointed at himself. The man is me. For several seconds, nobody reacted. Then my brother stood up. I left work early for this? Sit down. Dad said. There's more. There was always more. That was the problem with my father. He treated ordinary conversations like movie trailers. You said 2 people, I reminded him. Correct. Who's the second person? Dad slowly looked around the room. Then he pointed toward Grandma. The room exploded. Grandma started laughing so hard she nearly spilled her tea. Oh, for heaven's sake. Dad looked victorious. I knew it. You knew what? You've had a crush on me for years. Grandma rolled her eyes. I raised you. Exactly. That isn't how this works. Dad refused to back down. You always tell everyone how handsome I am because you look like your father. You also say I have a beautiful smile. You do. You see? Dad announced. Evidence. The rest of us couldn't stop laughing. Even Mom was wiping tears from her eyes. For a while, the conversation turned into a family roast session. Everyone took turns making fun of Dad. We reminded him of his terrible dance moves, his inability to find anything in the refrigerator, and the fact that he once spent 20 minutes searching for glasses that were sitting on his own head. But strangely, Dad didn't seem bothered. If anything, he looked happier than usual. Eventually, my sister noticed. Okay, she said. What's really going on? Dad's smile faded slightly. For the first time all afternoon, he looked serious. The room quieted down. Mom reached over and took his hand. Then I realized this meeting had never been about a joke. Dad cleared his throat. Last month I had lunch with an old friend. Nobody interrupted. He asked me how long your mother and I had been married. Mom smiled. 32 years. Dad nodded. When I told him, he laughed and said something I'll never forget. What did he say? I asked. He said, after 32 years, I bet neither of you still gets excited to see the other. The room became still. Dad looked at Mom. I laughed at first. Then I realized he was wrong. Mom's eyes immediately filled with tears. Dad continued. Your mother still calls me every day during her lunch break. She answers every stupid idea I have. She still saves the last slice of cake for me. She still reaches for my hand when we're walking. And every night before bed, she asks me if I locked the front door because she knows I'll forget. The room laughed softly. Then Dad's voice lowered. I realized something. After all these years, she still chooses me every single day. Nobody said a word. Dad looked around the room. So I wanted all of you to see what real love looks like. Mom started crying. My sister was crying too. Honestly, so was I. Dad turned toward Mom. You're still the first person I want to talk to when something good happens. Mom squeezed his hand. You're still the first person I look for in a crowded room. Dad smiled. Even with my bad knees, even with your bad knees. My snoring? Unfortunately. My terrible jokes? Those are getting worse every year. Everyone laughed through their tears. Dad leaned closer. Do you still have a crush on me? Mom shook her head. As we walked out of the house that evening, nobody was talking about Dad's ridiculous emergency meeting anymore. Nobody was laughing about Grandma's reaction or the prank he'd pulled on all of us. Instead, we were all unusually quiet. The kind of quiet that happens when something simple ends up meaning a lot more than you expected. A few hours earlier, we had all walked into that house expecting bad news. We thought someone was sick, someone was moving away, or some huge family secret was about to come out. Instead, we ended up watching 2 people who had spent more than 3 decades together